everyone, it's Lisa Glance here. Today I'm going to take you through my magical scene creator. You'll be watching me create a main scene, and then I'm also going to show you how to combine one of the character creators within that main scene. So let's get started. So once you've unzipped the main product folder, you'll see two folders, one for Illustrator and Photoshop. Depending on which software you are using, you're obviously going to expand the one that's relevant to you. In this example, I'm going to be using the Illustrator files. If there's anything different in Photoshop, I will hop over to Photoshop to show you the difference there. Okay, so I'm just going to double click the Illustrator folder to expand that. Inside you'll see several other folders. Under the magical scene creator folder, you'll see all the scene creators and character creators, etc. Okay, so I've already pre-opened a few files that I'm going to be working on. And for you, if you want to go ahead and double click on a file, it should open automatically in your Illustrator or Photoshop. So once you've opened one of the main scenes, you should be confronted with the instruction layer. You can go ahead, I would recommend that you actually read through it. Once you've done so, you can either delete it or just hide it. So in this case, I'm just going to hide it. And in order to do that, I need to have my layers panel open. If it's not open already, just go to Window, Layers. And then once you see that, you'll see the very top layer is Instructions, which says Instructions Delete Layer. I'm just going to turn that off by using the eyeball icon. Okay, so you'll see I've actually left some of the characters and layers on for you just to give you an idea what the scene looks like. I'm going to go ahead and actually turn everything off because I want to show you how to build up your scene. Okay, so starting with the ocean layer, I'm just going to zoom in quickly. The next layer available to you are some cliffs that you can turn on and off. These are, sort of side cliffs that you can have just as give your illustration some depth. So I'm just going to turn that on. I'm actually just going to leave the one on because I only want the one on, but I'm just going to show you what the other one looks like. Okay, so if you want it off, you just obviously turn the eyeball icon off. And then I'd like to actually add an ocean floor, so I'm going to turn that layer on. I just want to expand that group layer to show you what's available. So if I didn't want this hump over here, I'm just going to turn that off. And if I didn't want the stones, for example, I can turn all of them off, or again, you can expand that group layer and individually turn the stones off that you don't want. But in this instance, I actually want all the elements that's available on the ocean floor, so I'm going to leave that on. The next layer I'm going to activate is the ocean plants. Here what's lovely, under each group, again, you can expand those and then you can individually turn them on or off. Let me just show you what that looks like. Then you'll see in this particular scene I have marked which plants belong where. You'll see the floor plants, the right hand cliff, and obviously the left hand cliff, which we don't have on at the moment, so that looks a little bit weird floating in the middle of nowhere, but if that works for you, you can turn it on. But in this instance, I'm just going to leave that off. So let me just show you if we actually wanted to activate that left cliff, the plants would sit perfectly. Okay, this would be a good time to actually let you know that of course you're welcome to move any element around that suits your design, but just bear in mind that some of the things have been placed in that position for a reason. For example, as you saw, those plants for the left hand cliff have actually been placed exactly in the position that would work well on that cliff. But of course, once you have that activated, you're welcome to move those around however suits you. Just remember, in that instance, I would recommend that you save as a copy of the file so that you don't lose the original. Okay, so the next thing I want to turn on are some bubbles. There's some shells that you can choose from. Again, you'll see some sort of weird floating ones because that would actually be for the left hand cliff, so I'm just going to turn those off because we don't want those on, but I'll leave the bottom shells on because we do want those. And then I want a light streak coming in from the top just to give you that effect of the sunlight shining through the ocean. And then just a few fish, I'm going to add those for some interest. I think what I want to include, I'm going to turn off the jellyfish because ultimately I'm actually going to include the octopus into the scene, which is from another scene creator, so I just want to make space for him. So Actually, these two are quite cute, although they might distract. So I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to turn some of these stripy fish on, and maybe these little pink fish. So in Adobe Illustrator, given the fact that it's a vector format and every single element is available to you as a vector path, you can change the color of any element as you wish. In Photoshop, it's slightly different because I have tried to retain as much editability for Photoshop users, but some of the layers have been flattened. But the main things, like for example the color of the fish, you'd be able to change. You know, the color of this little hump at the bottom, you'd be able to change. So things like that are easy to change in Photoshop as well. So I'm just going to show you how to make changes in Illustrator first for any colors that you want to edit. So for example, I want to actually edit one of those fish. So I'm going to expand that group layer. And then I'm going to select the fish that I actually want to change and just expand his little layer. And then you'll see, because I have that selected, all these little you know, the blocks on the right hand side are activated. That it basically indicates that that whole fish has been selected. And I actually just want his body selected, so I'm going to go ahead and just select the body layer. Then I'm going to go over to my swatches panel, and I'm going to choose a different color. In this case, I'm going to change him to pink. You'll see that the color has actually been adjusted, and if you wanted to change the stripes, you could do that as well. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to select that again using this activation, this target selection tool, and then I'm going to change that to a light color, and then that's it. Actually, let's change the little fins as well. Let's do that. There we go. Okay, so that just shows you the flexibility that you have for each element. In Photoshop, recoloring is slightly different. So I'm just going to expand the fish layer and the striped fish. I'm just going to make sure I'm working on the one I want to target, which is this little guy over here. So I'm just turning the eyeball icon on and off just to make sure that's the correct one. Then I'm going to expand his layer, and I'm going to select the body layer. Then I'm going to move down to my FX icon in my layers panel and choose color overlay. You'll see it will automatically use the color that you previously had selected, and I don't want to use the brownie one, so I'm just going to actually hit on that little color block, and that brings up your color picker. From here you can either add a swatch, you can use what's currently in your color library, or create your own version. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm probably again going to use like a brighter pinker color. Not sure why I keep choosing that. Okay, maybe the purple looks a bit better there. And then I'm going to hit OK and OK again, and you have your new color applied. Now I'm going to move over to the, before we do that, I'm just going to quickly show you, I've also included textures layers under the main scenes. This adds a lovely sort of vintage vibe to the image, just gives it that extra sort of rustic look. And of course each one, you know, you can turn them on and off, and of course you can adjust the opacity of each one depending on how strong you want the effect. So for now I'm just going to turn those off. Now I'm going to move over to my octopus character creator, and I actually want to bring this little guy in, but first I just want to add some elements to him just to modify him slightly. So you'll see under all the character creators they have accessories that you can apply. So I'm just going to activate that main group layer. Then I'm going to expand the accessories of the octopus just to show you all the available options. In this case, I actually think I want to keep the hat, but I just want to show you the other options. There's a little winter hat. You know, he might be a little bit cold. Some glasses, different glasses. Actually, I think I'm going to go with that because that's looking quite cute. I do want him to be holding a flag because we want to maybe say something in that flag in our other scene. And I'll just take away his cane, and just to show there's another sort of flag, which is also great for if you want, you know, two sets of text to be added to your scene. So for now I'm just going to turn that off. I'm pretty happy with the character as he is. So now I need to select him and bring him over into the other scene. So the best way to do that is to actually lock all the layers that you don't need. So I'm just going to do that. I'm simply just activating the lock icon on all the layers that I don't want. And then I'm going to select all, which is Command A for a Mac, or you could go select all under the select menu. And then I'm going to copy, edit, copy. And then I'm going to move over to my underwater scene because now I want to bring the little guy in. At this point you have two options. If you select the flyout menu of your layers panel, you'll see you have an option to paste remembers layers. What this does is, if you have that selected, it's going to actually import your octopus and going to remember all the layers that it was that it came from, and actually import those layers into your new document. Sometimes this is really handy, especially if you want to retain all those layers, and sometimes it's not so handy in terms of it could get confusing. Maybe you want to group your character. So in this case, I actually want to group my character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call it octopus. And then I'm just going to reorder it. You don't have to know the exact order right now, but I do know I want it kind of probably underneath the other fish. And then I'm going to go over to the flyout menu, make sure paste remembers layers is off. And then I'm going to paste my octopus, which is edit, paste. Now if we just deselected that and started working somewhere else and came back to those elements, they wouldn't be grouped because we haven't told our file to actually group those elements we've just brought in, but I want to group them. So it's going to be Command G or object group. Obviously that's now no longer highlighted because I've already grouped that element. Okay, so let's deselect that. I think that's looking pretty cool. I think the layer order is also working great. So if I wanted it to be above the fish, I would just simply drag the octopus above the fish, which means if he was over the fish, he'd be actually on top of them. Okay, so you see now I wanted to move the octopus, and obviously I selected the light accidentally. So what I'm going to do is Command Z to undo that, and then I'm going to lock that layer to make sure that I don't accidentally move that layer, and just bring the octopus back. In Photoshop, copying and pasting the octopus is slightly different. Once you've created your octopus and you're happy with the results, we now need to copy and paste it into your underwater scene. The easiest way to do that would be just to turn off all the layers you don't want. So in this case, we don't want the background, the ocean floor, or the bubbles. But we do want the accessories and the actual octopus. Once you've done that, you're just going to select all by using the menu Select All or Command A. We're going to go over to the Edit menu and choose Edit, Copy, Merged. Make sure that you have used that option and not just Copy, because this will actually copy all the layers that are visible. And then I'm going to move over to my underwater scene and paste the actual octopus, which is under Edit, Paste. And you'll see it would have automatically created a new layer, and I'm just going to rename that and just move him into position. And from here you can obviously reorder your layer like we did in Illustrator, but I'm happy for it to sit under the fish. Now you have an option to actually start creating a lovely little scene that has a message, and this shows you how you can actually combine the scenes with each other to create your own unique, lovely, customized designs. And that's it. Now you're ready to create some lovely magical worlds. I do encourage you to experiment and explore all the different scenes. There are some quirky things hidden in some of the layers that I hope you find and discover. And yeah, just have fun, because the only limitation is your imagination. Thanks for watching. Bye.